Synesthesia is a disorder in which people experience a mixing of their senses. People can hear colors, they can taste sound, they can smell anger. So let's test right now to see if you have synesthesia. Which is brighter, a sneeze or a cough? Those domains, brightness and physiology, are completely unrelated. Yet, did you guess a sneeze? In one study, 95% of people believed that sneezing was brighter than a cough. So that begs a question, do you have synesthesia? In this video, I'll argue that yes you do. Now, for most people, your synesthesia won't be extreme enough to be classified as the true disorder. However, I'll explain the exact steps of how disparate concepts like brightness and sneezing can become connected in your brain and how those hidden connections influence your perception and behavior without your awareness. This video is only scratching the surface. If you want a deeper understanding, you can read my book, The Tangled Mind, which goes into so much more detail. Now, let's start with an easy example. Up and more. When you look at our language, you'll notice that we often speak in metaphors. For example, prices can be high, temperatures can rise, probability can increase. We're so accustomed to this language that they don't really feel like metaphors. But when you break it down, they are. Certain objects can literally go up and down, but numbers can only go up and down metaphorically. So why does this metaphor feel so natural to us? Well, when you analyze our everyday experience, you'll notice that we frequently encounter these concepts simultaneously. When you add objects to a pile, the level rises, and these common co-occurrences reinforced a connection between up and more. Now, this connection is pretty straightforward, but let's walk through another example that's less obvious, and let's dig deeper into the actual process that binds these disparate concepts. When you look at our language, you'll notice another metaphor. We describe affection in terms of warmth. Jane has a warm personality. The defendant had a cold and icy stare. The action was cold-blooded. Again, this metaphor, warmth and affection, isn't just a literary expression. It reflects a deeper connection in our brain. But how did these concepts become connected? Well, one of the pioneers of this field is George Lakoff, and he argues that many of these connections form early in life. With warmth and affection, we experienced those concepts simultaneously whenever our parents held us. When our parents held us, we felt a sensation of warmth. In our brain, a neuronal group for warmth started firing. At the same time, we also felt comfort and affection. Thus, a neuronal group for that subjective feeling started firing as well. And this dual firing triggered spreading activation. Activation from those separate concepts started spreading outward. Eventually, that activation merged and formed a link between those concepts. Today, in your brain, there is a connection between warmth and affection. This connection influences your perception and behavior every day without your awareness. If something activates physical warmth, then it activates affection. When people held hot coffee, they judged other people to be more affectionate. And when people are seeking physical warmth, they unknowingly seek affection. During cold weather, people spend more money on romantic movies compared to actions, comedies, or thrillers. When people try to solve the need of physical warmth, their brain mistakes affection as a potential solution. And the reverse happens too. If you activate affection, then you activate physical warmth. When people, or even monkeys, feel socially rejected, they feel physically colder. And if you're seeking affection, you'll unknowingly seek warmth. Research shows that lonely people take warmer baths and showers, and they also prefer warmer foods and drinks. Warmer stimuli seem more desirable to those people because those warm stimuli seem to possess the affection that those people are craving. Now, I opened this video with the example of brightness and sneezing, but how did those concepts become connected? It's hard to think of a situation in which those concepts occur simultaneously, and that's because this binding process also occurs with intermediary steps. For example, bright objects are visually lighter. Visually lighter objects seem physiologically lighter. With these boxes, the darker box looks heavier, as if it's pulling downward. Next, things that are physiologically lighter are typically smaller, and smaller objects, by nature, generate a higher pitched sound. So each step that we just saw has two concepts that co-occur, similar to warmth and affection. We can approach these connections like the transitive property in mathematics, and from beginning to end, we can see that brightness has a series of intermediary steps that bind it with high-pitched sounds. When you conceptualize sneezing, which has a high-pitched sound, it activates a series of connections toward the concept of brightness. So to answer the original question, do you have synesthesia? Yes, Yes, you do. Now, again, for most people, your synesthesia won't be severe enough to be the actual condition, but you still, nonetheless, experience an intermingling of your senses. I'll be posting a follow-up video within the next week that will dive into the practical implications of this process, so make sure to subscribe for that video and future videos on interesting psychology. In the meantime, if you want to learn hundreds of other hidden sensory connections and how those hidden connections influence your perception and behavior, you can read The Tangled Mind, which goes into so much more detail. There's a link below, and I'll see you soon.